Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Real Estate Underground by Vinny. My name is Vinny, and back again is our special guest, Dr. Christopher Clayton. Well, doctor slash turned real estate investor. Chris, how are we doing today, buddy?
Hey, doing great. Thanks for having me back. I love it here.
Absolutely, it's always a good chat. So, and as you know, on this podcast, what we like to do is try and give people real information, right? We want to help the people, and we want to give them the stuff. You know, because you got a lot of gurus out there online. They're giving a bunch of fake information. Matter of fact, before we jump into our topic, I literally had a lady, 45, she sounded much older, 45, 50 years old, and called, oh, I need a real estate mentor. And she lived in the inner city, and she's like, I want to wholesale, but the first guy I talked to, he wanted $5,000 to learn wholesaling. And I was like, oh God. I said, ma'am, her name's Carly. Actually, her real name is Carly. I'm going to help you for free. Stay away from those damn online gurus. And then she sent me a video of them. Kid's like 19 years old. I'm like, oh God, please. So, which brings me to another topic. As much as I can't stand the online gurus and how they rip people off, you have a theory, which I'm interested in because I never use these people. And I don't know if you have or you haven't, but I think you have some thoughts on property managers. And your theory is these property managers are opposed to the investor. They are directly opposed to the investor slash the owner. Now, for those who don't know what a property manager is, what they do is, let's just say Vinny or Chris had 5, 10, or even one piece of property, and they didn't want to manage it. They have a busy life. They're like a doctor or a lawyer or somebody who doesn't have the time or the want or the need to take care of a property. So they would call up and hire a property manager. Now, back in my day, they wanted 10%, the standard across the board was 10% of your rents. That's what you had to pay them. Now they've since then, a lot of competitions come out. Sometimes they're down to 5%. I've heard a couple of years ago, I haven't heard their commercial in a while, but they were like $99 a month, no matter what the rent is. And I think that might have been for just one property. I don't know, but I haven't heard them in a while. But, they were all trying to get more and more. So, all right, Chris, I don't know if I should call you Chris or call you doctor.
Chris is
Okay,
fine.
we'll go with Chris. All right, Chris, explain to me why you think property managers are directly opposed. I mean, they shouldn't be. They should have the owners and the investors' best interests at heart. So why don't they, and explain to me and everybody else why they don't and your reasons for saying that.
The property manager's goals are diametrically opposed to that of the property owner. And that's the basic reason, is because they get paid when there are problems. Like, for example, the investor I would ideally like a tenant to come into my property and stay there forever,
Right.
and be a great tenant and not cause any problems and not cause any damage.
Right.
However, generally speaking, especially most property management companies get paid every single time somebody signs a lease. So if they have to get somebody out, they get paid for that. If they get somebody new in there, they get paid for that. So they're not really motivated. I'm not saying they don't, but they're definitely not motivated to find the best, most stable, most reasonable people. And especially if there's damages, they usually get, a cut, or that maybe their employees are coming to do handyman work every time maybe they have an arrangement with a third party handyman, and they get money from that also. So people who abuse the property are welcome in their eyes. Now, obviously it shouldn't be like that. And, they, agree to not be like that, but the motivation still exists. And motivation is essentially pressure. So there's always this pressure for property managers to get people in there that are not best for your property, because you're the one that's going to have to go ahead and pay for that. Whenever there is the more clean out and repairs they have to do, the more profit for them. Every time and then they sign another lease, and then they get another fee for that.
Okay.
So
I got some questions. Yeah. I have some questions for you.
Sure.
I have some questions. When you say the property manager doesn't put the best tenant in there. Now, I'm coming from this that I've never hired a property manager, okay? Have you ever hired a property manager? Have you used them?
Yes. And one of the things I want to talk about when I'm done, I've used them, but like I have three across the country. And
Okay.
two of them are friends that I've known for 25 years.
Okay.
And one of them, I just got extraordinarily lucky finding a person that actually cares.
Okay.
So there's another solution also if you're not that as lucky as I was. But I could talk about those things after we finish this.
Well, I definitely want to hear. I would definitely want to hear your solution. But my question is this: let's just say I have one property and I don't have the time to manage it, or I don't want to manage it, and I'm like, okay, and I'm making good monthly cash flow off it, and I'm like, okay, I don't know what today's current rate, so I don't know if it's still 10% of the gross rents. I don't know what if it's changed at all. But let's just say, okay, the rent's $1,000, so I'm paying them $100, right? And I know that's very low. I know rents are $3,000, and but some rents are low. What do you not set up the parameters for what kind of tenant you want in your property? Do you not say, listen, I want somebody that I want you to pull their credit. I want somebody with decent credit. I want you to verify their employment. Do you not? Explain that to me.
Yeah, it's a great question. So two things I'd say about that. Number one, most new people don't. So for most new people, the answer is no, they don't do that. They just hire someone that for what their friend recommended them or whatever. They just found them online or whatever. So number one, a lot of people don't. Number two, and this is probably more interesting, no matter how many criteria I give, I could give them a list of criteria as long as my arm, but in the end, it always comes down to a feel that you get for the person. Do they seem trustworthy? They could check every single box, but if I talk to them, I might, not get a good feeling for whatever. But they're gonna, and that's always gonna be there. Even though there's HUD restrictions and everything else, there's always gonna be a little bit of that personal judgment that is being used. And they are not going to be motivated to be like, he checked all the boxes, but I don't think he was the best one because he seemed like he might damage the property or something like that. They're going to actually, sometimes there's going to be motivation for, I'm not going to say what they're going to do or not do, but there's going to be motivation for them to get people in there that they know are going to cause a problem and get out.
Okay, hold on. What? So you're saying, correct me if I'm wrong, you give me a little bit of rope here. You're saying that they're putting them in there intentionally, a bad person, right? Let's just say somebody that they think and feel is not going to make their payments so that A, they can evict them, right? And B, bring another person in to get more rent. How does that, explain to me, like, again, from a person who's never used one. So let's just say, again, I'm using one property. I have a tenant that they screen, okay, here's my parameters. Okay, I want you to pull their credit. I want you to verify employment. Maybe do they have any liquid assets? Okay, I want first, last, a security deposit, right? Go through those. Do they have reserves? Yada, 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 right? So you're saying that they may or may not put somebody in there that's not that good. Now, I pay the property manager X amount of dollars for that. And maybe you can help me out with how much.
Right.
So now they evict that person because they didn't pay. Do they get a fee for evicting them? And then do they get another fee for finding somebody else?
Yes. Okay. So here's usually how it works traditionally. Number one, it's usually a month of payment just to get them in.
Okay.
So it's the first month payment. And then also 10% every month.
Okay. Question for you. All right. Hold on. Sure. Okay. So 1 month to get them in and 10% a month.
Yes.
Okay. So when you say 1 month, you mean 1 month, whatever the monthly payment is. So far, they're paying $3,000. They get the $3,000. Okay.
Right.
All right, and now you did. I hope people understand this, that when you collect first, last, and a security deposit, that security deposit by law has to go into an escrow account, cannot be commingled, so you cannot use that money to give to the property manager. That has to come from your own, like the rent funds, meaning the first month's rent or the last month's rent. It cannot be that security deposit. So if you only get first month and a security deposit, you can't use that $3,000, and it must go into an escrow account. Okay. So now that being said, do a lot of people use a realtor to rent out their property, then hire a property manager, or do they hire the property manager to do both? Explain that to me.
That's a good question. I don't know what most people do. I imagine most people use a real estate agent to get the property, and then maybe that same agent is also the property manager, or maybe they recommend someone as a property manager. I'm not sure if but here, one other thing, So I think that probably happens both ways. But one other thing, a lot of times, if the property manager is a real estate agent, then they will insist they have to be a real estate agent. And then the ones that don't have a real estate agent license insist that it doesn't have to have a real estate agent. The law, I think, is gray there. But so regular real estate agent, let's just say that you're someone that is not that experienced and you sign up with someone. Not only do they do the 1 month up front, 10% every month. And then like if they have to evict, they have an eviction charge. If they have to do any damage, they have a damage charge. They make profit from that also. Get the new person in 3 months later, that's another whole month that goes into their pocket. And then a lot of times, and I want people to know this because this is sneaky, but it's very common. They'll also say, if you sell the property, you owe them 3%
Really?
of the sale. Yes, that's so common. I'm like, I remember the
Really?
first time I read that, I was like, you guys have got to be kidding. Like, I would never sign something like that. They got angry with me about it.
I would cross that out immediately. I mean, like,
Yes. Yeah. No. I didn't even like talk to them anymore. Like, I wouldn't even talk to someone.
If I would see that, and at least I would be gone. Now, in my area, I'm in the Philadelphia suburban area, so it's very common for the realtors to find to list a property and to find a buyer, but then they don't really do any property management. That's usually done by a complete third-party company. And that's what the realtors do, take exactly the same fee. So now, let's just say in that hypothetical, I hire a realtor, the realtor finds the person, they screen them well, so I know I'm getting a good buyer in there, or should be, or good tenant. And then can I just hand that off to a property manager and only pay my 10%? Or do I have to pay them an onboarding fee as well?
I mean, it depends on their lease agreement. Sometimes they say they have to get it.
Okay.
Which, it helps them with their supply on this side, and then it makes more income on this side.
Wow.
So a lot of times they'll say, no, you can't find your own. We have to find it for you.
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Wow. Okay. So now they get a fee. They get a fee for finding them, right? They get a fee for evicting them.
Yep.
They get the person that's in the house, let's assume they got evicted because they did either late pay or damage. Let's do damage first, right? You got a bunch of idiots in there. They destroy the house. The owner drives by. They see trash all over the place. They do an impromptu inspection. I'm coming through, right? And they're like, what the hell is going on here, right? And they want them out. Okay, so they call the property manager. What does he do and what does he charge?
Like, for example, they'll probably hire someone. If they have an employee, they'll hire someone for $20 an hour or whatever to go make the repairs, like a handyman. And then they'll charge you, let's say that takes 3 hours. They'll then charge you like $150. They'll always have a markup.
Wow.
So they make money from that every time. Anytime there's a problem, they make money.
Wow. Okay. Wow. Well, I mean, that's insane. So the reason why you're saying, well, and it leads me to, it's kind of the same thing with realtors here. It's about the money. Always follow the money. They're in it I can see that they want to make money. Right? I get that, right? But do they charge for every little thing? Like, give me some other fees that they charge for.
And I think I mentioned the main ones, like anything they have to do. If they have to go to the store, there will be a trip fee. Let's just say that if they have to go to the utility company, which happens on rare occasion, they'll charge a trip fee for that, like $600 for the day to go. Oh. Yeah. I mean, I've seen lots of stuff like that.
Okay. Let me ask you this. Let's just say I have a tenant and obviously I don't want any phone calls. Let's see, dishwasher, the refrigerator goes bad, right? And the tenant calls the property manager and say, hey, refrigerator died, right? Walk me through that of what it's going to cost me as the owner landlord.
Okay, generally it'll be, the refrigerator cost. And then again, they'll usually have an employee, they pay like $20 an hour, and then they'll charge you 2 or 3 times that. So it's probably just that. They might even charge you for removing the refrigerator and getting rid of it. They'll charge you for going to get the other refrigerator, putting it in there. There will be some kind of extra fees on top of getting the new refrigerator.
Do they mark up the fee for the refrigerator? The refrigerator, say, was $1,000. Are they marking that up? Are they allowed to?
I don't know if they're allowed to or not. That would be very, that would be even more predatory than
Oh, yeah, it's,
and most likely, if I was a predatory property manager, I would just say, no, no, that's what the refrigerator costs and show the receipt. Don't charge any more than that. But our cost is $85 an hour. Meanwhile,
Right.
they're paying $20 an hour.
wow. It's unbelievable. See, I never used a property manager ever. When I bought a lot of my properties, I was young and dumb and didn't know anything. I did have some help from an older gentleman, but what he told me to do and what I did, and then we'll jump back into more of this property managers, but I didn't. When I bought a lot of I started out with Section 8, right? And he showed me how to go down, get direct deposit, right? So I didn't have to, I did have to chase checks. I did that one time and that was a disaster, right? I never, ever again did I chase checks. And I'll tell you that story in a minute. But he told me, hey, get yourself a good handyman, somebody who has a card, keep him on staff, right? Pay him and hand him his card and you'll never have a call. And we did. So we could get into that in a minute. We can get into some of this stuff that I did, but so go in a little bit more about these guys. Like, I'm fascinated by this. So are these guys, are these one-man gang people, or are these big, I know there's big companies out there that call themselves property managers. What are most of the property managers out there? Are they, who are they? What are they?
I would say, I would guess that most of them are brokerages that are trying to make extra money on the side, because real estate is kind of hit or miss for selling and buying, but property management is very steady. So and a lot of okay, here let me clarify something for your viewers. So, and I alluded to this before. If you ask a real estate agent who's a property manager if property managers have to be real estate agents, they will say yes.
Right.
But if you have someone who's not a real estate agent who's a property manager, if they have to be, they will say no. So here's the clarification for your viewers at home. The people who are real estate agent, of course, they're motivated to say, yes, you have to get a real estate agent for property manager. The only thing that a property manager cannot do if they are not a real estate agent in most or all states is to create the lease.
Right.
You can do the lease yourself. You're allowed to lease yourself.
Yep. I have my own custom leases.
Yeah. So yeah. So the property manager will say, oh, well, part of our service is leasing. And so, yes, you do have to be a property manager to lease, but you can get someone, even a handyman or someone, they can be your property manager. The only thing they can't do is create the leases, but you can do that yourself.
Right.
I just wanted to make that clarification because you will hear, and I've every single real estate agent or every single property manager that is a real estate agent that I've asked, well, do you have to be a real estate agent?
Oh, they're going to tell you, oh, yeah.
They've all said yes, but that's not true. It's only true if they're responsible for the leasing.
Right. Okay. Well, I'm just going to go off subject for just a quick second because we talk about these realtors that talk about, oh, you have to be licensed realtor. You know what? I'm going to tell you what the realtors did. They went in. Now I totally agree with this in Philadelphia. Philadelphia was the absolute worst for these wholesalers. I had people that lived in Philly that were students of mine that would bring in papers about like literally fake letters. They talked like street slang. The words were misspelled like street slang. They were saying they were from L&I, licenses and inspections, right? And saying, oh, you've got some problems, but if you sell us your house, you won't get fined, right? All the words were misspelled. It was horrible. They were trying to steal every old lady's house down there. It was pathetic. So Philadelphia kind of banned wholesalers, said you got to be a license. Everybody ignored it. The state of Pennsylvania and other states, I have it somewhere, I wrote it down, came out with Act 52. I just want to tell you like why I can't stand realtors, okay? As much as I'm not a wholesaler fan, right? I don't like the sneaky tactics that they did, but there's a place for them. Like if you're a builder or a contractor and you don't want to go out looking for your properties, you hire somebody, you give them a couple of grand to go find your property. I don't see any problem with that whatsoever, right? The realtors got together and they have a big lobbying thing out in Washington. You know that. They literally made it almost a law. It's called Act 52 in Pennsylvania now, where you need to be a licensed realtor to wholesale any property. That's any type of assignments, anything. You have to be a licensed realtor. Same in South Carolina. Same in I think there's like 10 or 12 places, 14 places. And I think pretty soon it's going to be almost in every state where they're making wholesalers have to be licensed realtor. Not only that, not only do you have to be a licensed realtor, you have to run it through your brokerage, right? And you have to run, you have to run all the compliance stocks and everything through it. I actually have a friend that I got into the business. He started in the mortgage business. I became a real estate investor and became a realtor just so he can get commissions, and wound up becoming a broker and having like 250 realtors or more underneath him. And I called him and I said, Dave, do you know about this Act 52? I called him 11 o'clock at night. I said, Dave, do you know about Act 52? And he's like, yeah, I heard about it. I said, do you have wholesalers? I know we talked about this before. He goes, yeah, they're doing their own thing. I said, Dave, you are so far out of compliance. You better, because I love the guy, right? I'm like, you better bring these guys in and you better talk to your attorneys and get your act in order, because what they're doing is illegal. And I don't want to I don't care what happens to them. I care about you. I don't want to see you getting in any trouble. But you talk about the realtors and they're going to tell you to be licensed. It's the same thing with the wholesalers, how they couldn't stand wholesalers. They can't stand them, right? Because, they got to protect their commission, check chasers, right? They literally pretty much outlawed wholesaling for people that are not licensed. It's terrible, right? So, all right, sorry, I just wanted to throw that in there because it just.
Let me ask you a question about that.
Go ahead.
And we can go back to property managers because I still want to talk about the solution.
Yeah.
But like my first thought, and I'm actually going to get into this with property managers too, but my first thought would be to hire employees, train them how to wholesale, and then have them just bring you deals. And then you don't have to do a wholesaler fee. Like, don't you think that's a good idea?
Okay, say that again.
So if it were me, and I've on a rare occasion used wholesalers before, not super impressed.
Okay.
But one thing I did do is I actually hired a VA to just scour properties for me, and she would just bring me properties. She was my employee.
Right.
So like, I know there's a wholesaling element where you can actually go to the house and look at it and convince the person and get it under contract and bring it back to you. But let's just say you have a physical person in your area, a local person.
Yep.
You hire them as an employee for $20 an hour. I don't know what they would get.
Okay, and I'm only going to speak about Pennsylvania because I don't want to talk about other states because I don't know.
Sure, okay, Pennsylvania.
So I'm going to talk about strictly about Penn, just for everybody to understand, because every state has different laws. Sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
Okay, so here, let me make this succinct. So instead of having them do the wholesaling thing where they assign a contract,
right?
Instead, get employees to go out and do the wholesaling work for you,
right?
And just let you do the contract.
Yeah, let you do the contract. Yeah, that's perfectly legal.
So I would say do that.
Right.
Like if I were someone, rather than, I don't use wholesalers anymore. I've never been impressed by them. But if I needed that, I would just hire people.
Well, the problem with that is you're going to have people that are like, all right, are you going to hire them full time, right? Or you only pay me $20 an hour. I only did 3 hours worth of work. I'm making $60 as a wholesale fee.
Well, yeah, it would be full time. Okay, good questions. It'd be full time, and also there'd be a commission on the contract.
No, can't give a commission.
Okay, now if they don't sign it,
not in Pennsylvania.
Okay, in Pennsylvania, and I don't know Pennsylvania, but if they don't assign the contract, listen, Mr. Smith's house, and then my VA or my employee Sarah goes to that house, gets the information, and then connects me with that, and then I make the contract. And then the contract's done, we buy the house, and then I just give Sarah a bonus. I can't do that?
No. She's not allowed to make any money tied to that property at all, unless she's a licensed realtor. Yeah.
Okay, well, I mean,
terrible.
That is inconvenient, but I would just pay, it's $30 an hour.
Right.
And then you just...
Right. But you can possibly, maybe there might be a way to get around it where you can give her like a year-end bonus, something like that. But it cannot be attached to that property.
A year-end bonus based on performance.
Yeah, you can get around it. But I'm just saying, it killed like this poor lady who called me. I want to wholesale. I'm like, listen, before I give you any advice, look up Act 52. Okay.
Let me say one other thing. All right. So I feel like the employee thing is a fairly easy solution. The other easy solution, and tell me if I'm missing something, is just go get your license. It's not hard at all.
Well, that was the first thing she said. I'm going to get my license. Well, I think you're looking at it from the investor point of view. I'm talking about the people that you're looking at it like me and you, right? We could just go hire somebody, right? Go find us properties that we want to buy, right? You could, like you said, you could just you have virtual assistants.
And
that
that's
you use.
that's another thing. Do both. Like hire someone, have
Yeah.
them get a license, and then
Right.
go do it.
Well, I'm talking about the actual people that are just trying to wholesale, right? They have other jobs. They're trying to get into the real estate. Like all the online gurus say, listen, start out. They all say the same damn thing, right? Start out wholesaling, make a few dollars, and then you can start flipping properties, right? Like I'm not talking about like me and you, the guys who are the investors. Like the people, they just want to go make a few dollars on the side.
Yeah, just get your license.
Right.
It doesn't take long, and you'll learn a lot.
Exactly.
Go get your license.
And you will
That's
learn a
step
lot.
one.
Yes. Listen, my son, who's getting into the mortgage industry, right? And I'm like, listen, if you want to learn the mortgage industry, also get your real estate license.
Yeah.
Because you will learn. You are going to have to deal with realtors. So get that license because it will make you smarter. Okay.
And do you have to have an active license under a broker, or can it be inactive?
I passed my real estate license like 30 years ago, and I just let it expire. And it expired after 5 years. But I was in the mortgage industry, so I had to get my own mortgage license. So I had
Like a wholesaler. Can someone wholesale if they don't work under a broker?
no. They have to work under a broker.
To wholesale. Okay,
Yes,
well,
and,
go get
And what's kind of funny is all the contracts have to mention the broker, and the commissions have to be paid to your broker, and the broker has to pay you.
Yeah, that is inconvenient.
Oh, very inconvenient for the people that are just trying to make a couple of bucks on the side flipping a property. You know, I can guarantee I don't know anybody in Philadelphia that actually is getting their, you know, they're
I would say for that particular person who's trying to become a wholesaler, that is, for everybody else, it's fine.
right. But the person who's trying to be a wholesaler, correct, is very, but listen, they did it in South Carolina. They did it in Texas. South Carolina is even harder, right? Their rules were brutal. Like I have a whole list. My son looked it up for me. And they're starting to crack down everywhere doing the same thing.
I'd say it's a good opportunity for real estate brokers.
Yeah.
I'd say, hey,
it's a great opportunity.
To wholesalers. Have a whole new wholesaler division.
Absolutely. And that's when I called my realtor friend and said, Dave, I just want you to be in compliance because I know you have wholesalers that are not in compliance, right? Because he told me, he said, they're just out doing their own thing. I said, Dave, did you actually read Act 52? You better call your attorney, my friend. He goes, you're not in compliance. And I love you. You know, I'm the one that got you in this business. I don't want to be somebody who helps you get out. Get your act in order, right? You better bring these guys in a meeting and say, we need to change all of your contracts because I got to have my name on it and it's got to run through my company and the commission's got to go through me. So, you know, but that's PA and, you know, we can talk about that another day. Okay, back to the property managers, okay? We can talk about me, but I want to talk about you. You said you had a solution.
Yeah, I'll just button it up. It's related to our last discussion.
Okay.
And I would say if you're going to be an investor, like you're starting out as an investor,
Yep.
I would say number one, if you're starting out, I mean, you need to do it yourself. If you have one house, it's not going to take that.
Yes.
Do it yourself, learn how it works. And then once you get a couple of houses, I would say, you know, and again, I'll just say my thing was I was extremely fortunate to know people in real estate who had been in real estate for 20, 30 years who are personal friends of mine.
Yes.
So they were actually property managers. They've done a great job.
Right.
And then I was very lucky to meet someone in the other place in the country I am. And she actually cares about the property, which is extremely rare.
Right.
So if you get struck by lightning 3 times like me, then great. That's the best case scenario.
Right.
If not, I wouldn't go hire a random property manager.
Absolutely not. I agree with you there.
Number one, learn how to do it yourself and
Yes.
do it yourself for a little while. And then number two, I would hire employees or contractors to do it. Just like kind of what you were saying with the handyman with the card.
Yep.
So, and I would say have somebody, you know, if not on, like, if you don't have enough houses to employ them full time, then just look for part time work. By the way, there's lots of people looking for part time work.
Absolutely.
And let me just throw a couple of things out there now. So, this is so newer things like I've had a lot of luck with Monster.com. I post an ad on Monster.com. You know, handyman needed, and these are your jobs, and this is the pay, and all this stuff. And I just get tons of resumes in. Now, of course, they're all not going to be good, but I just have a phone screening with them and talk about their experience and stuff like that. And I've hired 5 people that way recently. And they worked out well. So I would say, number one, if you're new, do it yourself a little bit. Even do some repairs a little bit. Try to do as much as possible, but even if you have another job. And then when you get like 2, 3, 4, 5 houses, get a contractor to do it. Maybe a handyman who also can go around and do all the other little things you need them to do, and just hire them part-time. Lots of people want part-time work. Lots of people want full-time work, but you will get people that want to do it part-time also. And then later, when you get like 10 or 20 properties or whatever, then either get a full-time person, get another part-time person, whatever you got to do. That's way better because then they're following your rules. They're following your checklists. They're motivated to keep you happy, as opposed to the property manager. Like they get your employee gets nothing, or your contractor gets nothing if they have to evict someone, or you have to hire a company to evict someone or something like that. The motivation is almost completely aligned with you. So that would be my general solution for people starting out and then as they grow.
Well, I couldn't agree more with you. And when I was younger, I'm going to dive into like what I did. When I was younger, I made my bones in Section 8 real estate. That's where I bought did I buy my first property? Now, I don't know if it was my first ones or not. I'm trying to think. So long ago. I had a lot of Section 8, but I also had some single families in there. I'll just talk about the Section 8 properties, because with those, I did exactly what the gentleman that kind of got me into it, his name was Bill Myers. I'm sure he's long past. He was an older gentleman 35 years ago. And he said the same thing. You don't need a property manager. Now, he did it all himself, right? Because he just was retired. He was a GE engineer, retired, and he just loved real estate, and he had hundreds and hundreds of properties. And he introduced me. He wanted to sell them. His kids didn't want them. I got introduced to him, and I'm like, I love to buy them. And that's kind of how our relationship started. And I bought a lot off of him. He introduced me to a lot of other people that wanted to get rid of their property, so I bought a lot off of them. And what Bill told me, he's like, you don't need a property manager. He's like, you're just wasting your money. Hire a handyman. And when you have enough of these, keep them on full time, right? Your direct deposit, all your money's getting direct deposited, okay? Make sure you have a ton of his business cards and you hand them out. In the beginning, if you don't have enough money to have them on full time, exactly what you said, you just pay them per job, right? But you let them know, hey, I'm buying more and more of these, and as time goes on, we can see if this turns into something different. I wound up hiring that guy, and he worked for me for, 15, 20 years. He stayed on with me. When I would buy bigger homes and flip bigger homes, and he would do a lot of the work. He was my general contractor, right? He did commercial stuff, was most of his stuff in the beginning, and then he worked for me for, I guess, about 10 or 15 years. And he was a great guy. And all I did on all my Section 8 properties, I'm going to get to my higher end properties in a second, I just handed my business card to them. And I said, if you have any problems, this is who you call. Now, I still got calls like, hey, you got drug dealers in your house. Hey, listen, I've had drug dealers, I've had cockfights, I've had dog fights, I've had illegal car washes, I had illegal laundromats, I had illegal daycares, you name it. They were doing it into my houses, right? Because I was young and dumb and didn't understand, and talking about collecting money. So if people don't understand about Section 8, it's the people that are low income people. They're looking for some help, and the government pays for their rent. Now, it doesn't pay all of their rent, right? It might pay 70%. They may pay 80%. So let's just say it was $1,000 rent that I was charging, and they would get $800 in credit. So they would owe me $200. So Bill would send me around and say, okay, listen, every month go around and start collecting your $200. I did that. Now you got to remember, I'm a young kid, single, right? I've got 75, started out, I bought, I think 30 or 40 off of Bill. So immediately I walked into a ton of properties, right? And then as I met Bill's friends, I was buying more off of them. So I had, hundreds of properties, right? I started collecting the first time. And you understand, I'm getting all this money direct deposit. It was beautiful, right? I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, I am in heaven. This is unbelievable. I go around to collect the first time. I don't want to hear you. I don't want to say the slurs that I heard, right? Like, who the F are you? Like, are you effing kidding? Get out of here. I don't even want to say all the bad language I got. I'm like, you know what? See you later.
So hold on.
Yeah.
That kind of fell apart a little bit. So let me see if I got it. So the Section 8 the government paid the Section 8 part.
Yes.
And then the tenant was required to pay like
just say like 200, maybe 100 to 200.
So you walked up to the house and you knocked on the door.
Yeah, they knew who I was. I was the landlord.
I'm the landlord.
Yeah.
You owe me $200.
Yeah, well, let me take a step back because I left this part out. when I was buying the properties, Bill walked me around to all the properties and said, Vinny's going to be your new landlord. How are you? How you doing? Right? I'm Vinny. If you need anything, here's my card. Right? If you need anything, call this guy. His name is Chris Baltz, right? And he worked for me for years. I said, give him a call. Anything you need. I'm going to be the greatest landlord you ever had. Anything you need, just give this guy a call. He'll be here within 24 hours, right? So I got introduced to all my tenants, right? And, and Bill's like, hey, first of the month, go around. He gave me a list, right? I'm knocking on the door. I knocked on the door. Dude, I got cussed out. I got threatened. I'm like, I don't need this. I'm making enough money with just the government funds. Dude, I got in my car, went right to the golf course. I said, that's it. I'm not collecting another dime. I got it. I'm like 24 years
That's
old.
one of the best stories.
I'm like, forget it. I'm like, I don't even want to tell you what they said, right? I mean, I mean, I'll say the word. It's a racial slur. I mean, I didn't know what it meant, right? But it's what somebody would call a white person. You know what I mean? Like,
okay, So was the government's
was
part?
more than enough. Oh yeah, because
covered the debt service.
When I bought my properties, like Bill was trying to retire, and my deal was, I will do 80% minus my closing costs. Whatever the house appraises for, I'll buy any property that you. Now, most of them he owned them free and clear. Most of them, right? So he owned them for years and years and years. His kids didn't want them. And I said, I will buy them at 80% minus closing costs. That will be your net pay. If you want to do that, I'll buy as many as you want to sell. We shook hands, and he's like, here's the first.
Made a bunch of money, too.
What's that?
Appreciate it. And he made a bunch of money, too.
Oh, yeah. He's like, here's your first 10. Let me know when you... Dude, I closed them immediately. That's how I learned contract for deed. Then the next 10. Then the next 10. Then the next 10. Then he introduced me to all the other people that had... because he was in some kind of landlord association. I forget. He was in some group. And he introduced me to them. And he's like, yeah, I just sold Vinny like 60 properties. They're like, Vinny, how many you want? I got thousands. I'm like, I'll take whatever you want, Here's another 10. So I got him at 80% minus closing. So I got him at about 75 loan to value. So my loans were, my payments were, and the taxes were dirt. Taxes were nothing, right? The homeowners were dirt cheap. Taxes were dirt cheap. So I was making I was making great cash flow.
Even without
the extra money. I didn't even need it. I literally went one time, one day. I think it was the first house. It might have been the second house. The first house might not even answer the door, right? I didn't collect a dime. Just so you know, I didn't collect one dime.
This is of course, this is pre-internet.
No internet, no cell phones. Oh yeah, no internet, no cell. There's no internet, no cell phones. There was none of that, right? This is, you're in the car and knocking on the doors, and if you had to make a call, you went to the payphone on the corner and dropped a dime or a quarter in, right? Whatever it was at the time. It used to be a dime, right? And then it went up to 25 cents.
I remember. Yeah, it was a dime.
Yeah. So that's
one really interesting thing that you said, which a little bit of a tangential topic, but you said, and his kids didn't want it.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to say something now. I've talked to a lot of people, and I've heard many times, oh, I've got all this real estate and my kids don't want it. But I've never once heard, and maybe you have, I've never once heard, my kids are excited about starting in real estate. They want to take over the properties. They want to keep everything going, which is kind of what we would think when we get started in real estate.
Yeah.
Like, oh, my kids will take it over, and then it'll be like in 100 years, it's all going to be worth so much.
Yeah.
But like, I've never heard anyone say, like, kids are fools, I guess, because they don't want all this,
Chris,
this real estate.
Chris, I have 5 kids, 5 of them. None of them want to own real estate. They just want the freedom that goes with it.
Yeah.
They could care less about and you have to understand, I don't know if I should say this, right? Because it sounds like I'm bragging. I don't want to be that way. Like,
well, go ahead. You're not bragging.
My kids they just led a very charmed life. Okay. They're very spoiled. Okay. Whatever they needed. They were the kids, like when we would go to, we play baseball. They're the ones with all the brand new Mako bats, right? All of them. Each one of my kids, because they can't share. God forbid they share a bat, right? Brand new every year, brand new bats, brand new cleats, brand new you know what I mean? Same thing with every sport, right? It gets cold out, we fly down to Florida. This is how spoiled my kids were, right? Like we would literally take a limo because you have to understand, I'm traveling with a lot of people. and we had 2 cars at the house where we were. So we had to get from the airport to the house. Well, getting in a cab wasn't worth it. So I'm like, okay. So I just called a limo service one day, and it was cheaper than a cab, and we all fit. So it was just easy to take a limo, and it literally was cheaper. So every time we went to Florida, I called a limo to drop us off. And my kids, yay big. The limo's not there. They're like, where the hell's the limo?
Where's the limo?
Where's the limo? Where the hell is the limo? I'm like, what the hell? What did just come out of your mouth? And my wife's like, that's you. I'm like, that's you. Oh my God, that's embarrassing. Like, 10-year-old kids, where the hell's the limo? Right? I mean, it's I don't know. So they know the kind of lifestyle that real estate and mortgages afforded me. They don't want to have it. They don't want to work for what they call the man. They don't want to work for the man, right? They want to lead the children, but they don't want to own real estate.
All right, so I got a question for you. So
Yeah.
now you don't have to answer if you don't want to, but what advice would you give to young fathers to avoid, I'm not saying your kids are whatever. I don't know your kids at all, but
They're great kids. By the way,
that-
my kids are great. They're hardworking,
you go.
right? They are spoiled. They were very spoiled, but listen, we've been humbled over our lives. But they are great kids. I wouldn't trade them in for the world. Are they still spoiled? Not really. I did teach them
Turned into great
about
adults.
finances and stuff like that. So they grew up.
Okay.
So go ahead. Sorry.
So what would you recommend for new fathers related to their kids?
As far as what is
As far as the stuff we're talking about right now, how let's say, you want your kids to be hardworking,
Yes.
disciplined, take things for granted. And like, what would you recommend? Would you recommend making them work and then
Yes.
not giving them anything for free? Which are like, give me some rules.
I think if I had to do it all over again, right, I would make my kids, I would want to try and get them more interested earlier in real estate, right? I did it wrong because I think as a father, my dad wanted me to give a better life than he had, right? Which he did. God bless my dad, right? And I wanted to give a better life to my kids than what I had. And in a way, I kind of, to me, it was like whatever, like I spoiled my kids rotten, whatever they wanted, and I think that's the wrong message, right? I should have made them work harder for it. I should have made them work. I should have got them interested in my job more because I think they'd be interested in it now. I think they saw the fruits of my labors and they like having the financial freedom, but they never saw their dad because they weren't around. Like, I didn't have kids when I started buying all those Section 8 properties. I was a young kid. I was a kid myself, right? So they didn't see all that. They didn't see the friggin' 80 hours a week in the mortgage industry, no sleep, running around doing loans all the time, start my own business, like sometimes not being able to make payroll, like, you know what I mean? Like craziness like that. I think instilling a hard work at it, and they work hard. They all have jobs that are working hard. But I wish I would have got them in the industry earlier and got them to like real estate as much as I did, right? And taught them the value and taught them. I mean, they have. I want to say work values. They all have good work values, and they do have good values, and they work hard. But I wanted my vision of my family. I wanted it to be a big, giant family business.
I think so many fathers want that.
Yeah, I wanted.
They don't get it.
Yeah, and I don't have it. Right. The same thing with. I was a very good ice hockey player. All right, I was number 2 in the country. I could have went pro. Right. The guy who was number 1 played in the Olympics, played for the Rangers. He's in the Hall of Fame. Like, he was ranked number 1. I was ranked number 2. I was very good in my day. I was, could have went to the Air Force Academy playing Boston College. I had a couple of free boats. I didn't go that way, right? And I wanted my kids to get into hockey because that was my favorite sport. Not one of them wanted to touch. I brought them onto the ice. Not one of them wanted to play. And all my friends, their kids got, not all of them, but a lot of them did play. And I was tortured. Not one of them played. And the same thing with the real estate. Like, I wanted to have one big happy family with real estate, the mortgage industry. Hey, we can make this into a monster, right? We can own the mortgage company here. We can be the real estate firm over here. We can be the actual broker, right? So we could be that. We can have all of our real estate here, right? This could be, and we can do it as a big giant family, but it's not turning out that way, And I think it's because I didn't get them involved earlier.
Okay, so what do you recommend for young fathers? How early, and what would you have?
Immediately. Bring them to work. Bring them to work with you. Let them. I see kids with their dads, 2, 3, 4 years old, working on cars. Right? They're out there doing what their dad does, and that's where their passion is. Right? They want to be like their dad. I should have taken. Part of the problem is, and I think you might agree with this. When you're I don't want to sound so ignorant. When you have means and you have money, sometimes you don't have to work. Meaning, when you own a lot of real estate, you have a lot of free time, right? And it looks like you're not working, but they missed all the hard work before. You know what I mean? Like
risk.
You have a lot of you have a lot of properties right now, right? Just imagine if you stopped working. Well, I don't know if you could do it now. I don't know how many you have.
I could stop working.
Okay,
yeah, no problem.
And the income that you're coming off of it, right?
Sure.
Right, could pay.
And I've got managers for everything.
Right.
I don't have to do anything.
Right, so you can.
I try to go do real estate stuff for fun sometimes.
Exactly.
There's nothing that I have to do.
Right, exactly. So now, near the end of my career, like I had the mortgage industry, we were making a lot of money with that. I didn't have to do a lot of work because everything was done pre-internet. Like I didn't have to do any marketing. All my stuff was referral based, right? So my kids saw what they saw was daddy not really working, right? But we live in a big house here. We got this big house in Florida. Limos are picking us up here. Daddy's going to Pebble Beach. Mommy's got a horse. Sammy's got a horse. They're going to the barn every day. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they're unfortunately their friends are calling them spoiled rich kids. Like they got picked on a little bit with that, but they didn't see the fruits of the labor. They saw the fruits of the labor. They didn't see the hard work that I put into it earlier. And I think like by magic, that's what's going to happen to them, right? Like I didn't have my kids that, but I think you need to get your kids involved. If you want them to be in the real estate, you got to get them to love it early. Like, because early on, and I'm talking 2, 3 years old, bring them with you. Take them around, look at the properties. Like me and my wife used to drive around every weekend looking at properties, right? Now we'd have the kids with us in the car seats and stuff like that. But when they got older, you know what I mean? We didn't do that, and we should have. If you want them involved in the real estate like I do.
I've got something that you would find really interesting, I think. So I don't know if we've talked about this yet, but I have a real estate charity that provides affordable housing, and it's called Doorways.
Okay.
And so it's great for people with kids because instead of transferring the money on your death, you can transfer it to the charity,
right?
And that will provide like jobs forever for all of your kids.
Yeah.
And it can provide raises and stuff like that. So it's kind of like a trust, but with a trust, and you could make rules for a trust. We talk about this whenever. You can make rules for the trust, but eventually all the money or all the property just gets transferred. Whereas with a charity is forever.
Yeah.
So essentially your kids always have a purpose. It is within real estate or whatever the charity is about. And they could be the CEO of the charity or whatever and draw a salary from that. So they're always taken care of. And there's a purpose and there's a job, and it ensures the machine can keep going.
Yeah. We talked about that a lot. Like we're big we're big in the military. And one of the things that I wanted to do is kind of like what Frank Silver's doing, like Tunnels to Towers. One of the things what I wanted to do is I wanted to create a big giant community of retired injured veterans, right? Like find a monster piece of track land and build smart. Like I'm talking about the injured ones that got hurt. They're in wheelchairs.
Yeah, I have to connect you with my dad. My dad is a Purple Heart.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
So what I wanted to do was build a giant community, right? But what I wanted to do, and I'm talking like a big community, I'm talking like thousands of homes, like have a veterans park there, right? Every night, we raise the flag, lower the flag, right? 4th of July fireworks, the whole 9 yards. But what I wanted to do is I wanted to have the veterans build the homes, right? I wanted to have like a shopping center there, like a commissary, but it's run by the veterans. You know what I mean? everything for the veterans. I wanted to have like a movie theater, the veterans are there, a shooting range for the veterans, right? Maybe it's near a hunting place where they can go hunt together. You know what I mean? Because a lot of them after they get out, they don't. So a lot of them don't find a purpose. There's too many suicides with them. Drives me nuts. These guys put their life on the line for us, and you know, I'd love to see them be together, because I think, you know, being together, you know, they're not going to kill themselves as much, right? They need their buddies around them. And I love to build a giant community. Me and my sons have talked about it a lot, and hopefully one day we can get that going. That's my dream, is what I want to do, right? That's my ultimate goal, and hopefully my kids take that and run with it. So
yeah, and that could be the charitable purpose.
Right,
You could
yeah.
make a charity of that, and that would be the charitable purpose.
yeah,
It's effectively immortal.
yeah. Well, I mean that would be great, because that would help a lot of them. And you know, my whole family is served. You know, my dad didn't serve. They wouldn't let my dad serve because he was blind in one eye, so they wouldn't let him. So he was devastated. Every one of my uncles, my grandfathers, my cousins, everybody. And I was supposed to go to the Air Force Academy, and boy, that devastated a lot of people in my family, I got to tell you. But all right, back to the property manager, right? We'll get back to that, right? One of the things I'll say, so I think I agree with you, and I think both of us agree. You start out with one guy. Don't hire a property manager per se. Get yourself a handyman. You don't have to hire him full time, right? Need extra work, send him out there. Hey, go out there, take care of it. I'll pay you. You know, like you said, you can pay him $20, $30 an hour, and you're still going to be okay. That's one of the lower end properties. When we did corporate, I don't know if I ever told you this, but we did corporate rentals. Okay, so after the Section 8s, I did townhomes, and then we did. So I was living in Villanova, which is a kind of hooty fluty neighborhood, and directly across from me was I've never seen anybody live there, and it was a piece of crap house. And I always tried to find the owner, because I'm like, I'm going to buy that one day, but I could never find the owner. And one day, again, pre-internet days, right? I think it's pre-cell phones days. I'm out cleaning my pool by the side. A guy comes in, he barely speaks any English. He's from France, and he's like, I heard the alarm going off, and he came over and wanted to borrow my phone. So yeah, obviously it was pre-cell phone days, because he wanted to borrow my phone, because he wanted to try and call the alarm company. Broken English. So I'm like, sure, it's in the kitchen, you know. So he came out, thank you, and I said, did you just move in across? He's like, yeah. He's like, I'm from France, my wife's here. I'm like, oh, when did you move in? Yada, yada, yada. And he wound up telling me that he's paying, you gotta remember, this is 25, 30 years ago, like $3,000 for now, it's in Villanova, so obviously a premium, but it's like a piece of crap house, like junk falling apart. I'm like, you're paying what? He's like, yeah, $3,000. I said, for that house? He's like, listen, I don't care. My company's paying for it. I don't pay anything. And I said, why did you choose, if they're paying, why did you choose this? He's like, oh, because there's a French school right down the street, and you know, just one of the only houses around. And as soon as my wife got home, I said, listen, we're going to start buying, let's look into this corporate rental stuff. It's like, what? I told her, I said, the neighbor across the street is paying $3,000. She's like, there's no way. I said, I'm telling you, he was here, the alarm was going off. I'm like, $3,000 a month. Let's do corporate rentals. We immediately called our realtor. We said, listen, I want to get into corporate rentals. Let me tell you something. That was one of the best things we ever did. Our only competition was a company called Corman Suites. Corman Suites did townhomes, right? And furnished townhomes. No pets, and they did 6 months or a year. And they would do 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, a year. So they were kind of like Airbnb before Airbnb was even around, right? So they did what I consider. Now, I know people have other, like I know the Airbnb guys, their short-term rentals different what I say. So as a real estate investor, when I say short-term, my short-term is 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, anything under a year. That's short-term. Not a day, a week. That's Airbnb stuff. Anyway, so they did short-term rentals, fully furnished, no pets. So if you were coming in, say from France, Germany, and you're only coming in by yourself for, say, 3 months, right? You would go to a Corman Suites because it's fully furnished. You didn't have to bring anything. You can hang out. You're good to go. If you were coming for 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, and you're working for any of the big companies, and you're bringing your family with you, and you're bringing your pets, and you're coming with containers, you called Vinny. Why? Because I bought single family homes I allowed pets with I took a non-refundable pet deposit. Whatever you wanted. Dude, I was getting phone calls. Hey, companies were calling. I need a 4-bedroom house, right? They're coming in for 3 years. Like, all right, I'd call Cheryl. Hey, Cheryl, I need a house. I didn't even look at them. She'd go find it. She goes, hey, Vinny, I found one. I'm like, okay.
Buy one.
We buy them. The day we were making settlement, I was signing the leases. It was unbelievable. We had 68 homes. I was having people call me. Vinny, can you buy, like, you talk about realtors that, again, check chasing lazy realtors, right? I would get calls from realtors. Vinny, I got a house, not even on the market. You interested in it? I call Cheryl. Hey, Cheryl, any corporations need a house in this area? Yeah. Okay. I got a house. We're buying, right? I said, go get the agreement of sale done, right? But you know, and then people, when they talk about off-market, I want to go sidetrack for 1 second. People talk about off-market properties. And I'm like, listen, is there motivation on off-market properties? Yes, but not as much as you think, right? They're just, most of the off-market properties are realtors that got a listing and they don't want to put it up and they want to brag that they got it sold before they put it on the market, right? Can you get a bargain? Yes. But most of these investors think, oh, go to off-market properties. You can get a deal for 20, 30% off discount. I'm like, why? Why are they going to sell it at a discount?
Yeah, just put it on the MLS.
Just put it on the MLS, right? They don't have to, right? Unless they're super motivated. Now, that house, I did get motivated. She had to get out very quickly. So I'm like, I'm in, I'll buy it. So I got it like $50,000 under value, right? And actually the realtor screwed up because I'm like, listen, we signed the agreement. I'm like, I'm sorry, you got to take it up with your, anyway. But that I did feel bad for the realtor, that one. She listed it the wrong price, but that wasn't my problem. Anyway, so we did corporate rentals. So anybody coming in we had people from Germany, France, England, Netherlands. It was fantastic because I got to meet all these wonderful different people with different accents. I love the one people I had in one of my big homes. I built a spec home. It was a $2 million spec home in a market turn. I couldn't sell it, so I rented it. It was like $9,000 a month in rent. People from England came in, and they were in for 3 years. And this is right before 2008 collapsed. And when 2008 collapsed, that's what kind of killed me. I had all these big single-family homes that were rented out. But, we were talking about property management. Okay, what I did for those, I'm getting a little sidetracked. I had all these big single-family homes. All I did tell them, listen, if you have a problem, I got to remember, these people are paying $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 a month in rent. Sometimes 3 or 4, depending on the size of the house. I'd say, listen, call whatever happens, call whoever you got to call, take the money off the rent, send me the invoice, and send me the difference. Now, 98% of the time, nothing ever broke. Nothing, right? Never had a problem. I had a problem a couple times down in Florida, like a dishwasher broke. Like, go buy a new one, right? The washer broke, go buy a new one. Take it off the rent and send it to me. That was it. The only time I actually had to go somewhere.
That's great, man. Every time you talk, I come up with, like, there's all the ideas that nobody does.
Right.
Tell the tenant to go buy another one and then just pay me that much less rent.
Yeah.
I've never even heard that before.
That's how I did it. That's
I
right.
love these Vinny techniques.
Because I did, right? Because listen, you got to remember, I'm relatively young when this is going on. I'm in my late 20s, early 30s, right? I'm playing golf. My wife's out riding horses and ponies, with my daughter. I'm just loving life, you know what I mean? And this is what I talk about, like, should have got my kids involved. The only time I ever, this is a great story, you'll love this one. The only time I ever went out to an actual house, right? So I lived in Malvern, and I bought like 5 other houses in Malvern, and then I bought some just outside of Malvern and Paoli. So I had about 10 or 12, 15 corporate rentals just in my area, right there. And one day I get a phone call, and the lady lived on, it was called Raffaella Drive. And she's like, Vinny, the dishwasher is leaking water all over the place. I'm like, can you turn the water off? She's like, I don't know where it's at. Can you come over? I know you live in Malvern. I'm like, yeah, all right, I'll come over. Now, this is like not quite dark, but almost dark out. I'm like, okay, again, like this is like pre-cell phone days, okay? So I hop in the car. I'm driving. I'm like, where the hell is this? I never saw the house. This is one of those, you have to understand, I was buying houses sight unseen. I would say, Cheryl, go to the house. If it's great, turnkey, let's buy it. You understand? I was buying houses and signing leases at the same time. I never went to go I would say 80% of the homes we never even looked at. We looked at them in the beginning, then we trusted our realtor. Okay, if you're telling me it needs lipstick, great, buy it, right? So anyway, so we bought this house on Raffaella Drive. It's in Malvern, so it's near me. Like, all right, so I'm looking at the maps. I'm like, all right, somewhere around here, and I'm driving around, and I'm going up and down and up and down. Where the hell is this house? I can't find this house. There was a cop standing over there. Woo, 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 pulls me over. Like, I roll down my windows, I put my hands up. Yes, officer? He's like, what are you doing? I said, excuse me? He's like, I've seen you drive up and down the street at least 10 or 15 times. Who are you and what are you doing? I said, well, my hands are outside. I'm looking for a house. What for? I said, oh, I'm sorry. Let me explain. My name is Vinny. I live around the corner. I live on Forest Lane over here, right around the corner. I have a house on Raffaella Drive. I said, the dishwasher's leaking water, and I got to get there to turn the water off. The lady can't find the spigot. She just moved in a week ago. I don't know where it's at. I can't find the house. He's like, wait a minute. You're trying to tell me you bought a house and you don't know where it's at? I'm like, yeah, I don't know where it's at. He's like, it's literally right there. I'm like, where? He's like, Raffaella Drive. Well, there was no street sign, Raffaella Drive. That's why I couldn't find it. There was the sign was there, but it was like all the way in. You know how it's usually on the corner? Well, it wasn't on the corner. For some reason, it was like 10 feet in, and it was kind of dark out. I didn't see it. So he's like, this is such a bullshit story. I'm like, officer, I swear to you, I got to find it. He's like, I'm going to take you there. I'm like, okay. So we go up, and he's like, you stand. So I had to walk first. He made me walk first. He's like, you stand over there. He knocks on the door, right? Dang, knocks hard with his baton, right? The lady comes out. Hello? And she sees the cops. Can I help you, officer? She's like, do you know this guy? He's like, no. I'm like, I'm Vinny. I'm Vinny. I'm your landlord. She goes, yeah. Oh, that's Vinny. Yeah, he's my landlord. The cop's in disbelief. She's like, the water's leaking. I got to turn the water off. The cop looks at me and is like, this is unbelievable. This can't be true. So I went in her house. I turned the water on. I introduced myself to her. Like, it's nice to meet you. If you need anything, give me a call. Then I said, listen, matter of fact, if anything else happens, just call somebody, take it off the rent, send me the difference. She's like, okay, right? And that was it.
That's the life right there.
The cop was like, there's no way, this is not true. And that's what he said, do you know this guy? And as soon as she said no, I was like, well, he looks at me like he was ready to lock me up. I'm like, no, yeah. I'm Vinny. Actually, that was one of the properties that I don't know if I told you a story about. I got my friend who was a police officer who got ripped off by this is one of the reasons why I started teaching. He got ripped off by one of the online gurus, right? And I felt bad for him, so I got him in the real estate business. That was one of the houses that I gave him. I don't want to say I gave it to him. I sold it to him, but I did creative financing. He didn't have to put any money down, right? So we I think we did an installment sale, and I just gave him everything, gave him all the equity, gave him everything, and he had that, and he parlayed that into like 350 student family homes. So I bought that house sight unseen, right? And I couldn't find it. I'm driving up and down. The police officer's like, pull me over because he's like, what the hell? Who the hell are you? You know? Actually, I did have to give him my license. Right, I did have to give him my license, and that was the other thing, because I literally just moved to Malvern not that long ago, and my license still said Villanova on it. He's like, this says Villanova. I'm like, look, I swear, I just never changed my license yet, officer. I swear, we can drive right around I literally live on Forest Lane. You can drive there. I'm on the corner of Forest and Skyline. And he's like, where are you going? I'm like, Raffaella Drive. I don't know where it's at. I have a tenant there, and I said, we got to go there quick because the water's leaking. He's like. He didn't believe one word I said. Not one word. You know, and I can still, listen, I can still remember his face when she said, no, I don't know him. I was like, oh my, like he literally wanted to lock me up right then and there. You know what I mean? But luckily, I'm like, no, I'm Vinny. I'm your landlord.
We should have a podcast one time about the problems that we've had and how we solve them.
Oh yeah, that'd be
crazy
great.
Problems. I've had like crazy, ridiculous problems.
Yeah. Oh.
How we solved them.
Oh my God, I could get into so many of them.
I'm sure you'll be doing most of the talking, but I've got a couple stories too.
But that's how I solved my property management service, right? And these all these were big single family homes, right? 4 bedroom, 5 bedrooms. for families that were coming in for a few years. And I just said, hey, you need anything, take it off the rent. I said, I don't care who you call, right? You call the highest, the low, it doesn't matter to me. Just call whoever, right? And that's how I did it. And with the Section 8, I had the card for my friend Chris, who started out part-time and wound up, like I said, working for me full-time, right? We did a lot of stuff together. We built some homes together, did a lot of tear down, not only tear downs, but we also rehabbed a bunch of homes. So he was a good guy. He was a good guy. So yeah, so I never used property managers at all. So, but I do see where you're coming, where they don't have your best interest. You know, it's horrible that in this industry, it's really, a lot of this is really, greed is a real driver for people, because and we can finish up with this, and I want your thoughts on this. Do you use realtors at all to find your homes?
No, not at all.
Okay.
There's one. The only exception is, so sometimes I will use the seller's agent. I'll tell them, this is my best offer,
right?
But I'll let you be my seller's agent if the buyer agrees. Now, okay. I don't know what kind of agent code they have to listen to and whether they're supposed to do that or not, but that's not my problem.
Right.
I just tell them,
okay,
here's an offer. Now, if you accept it, I'll let you be myself. Good.
Okay. I should have prefaced it a little bit differently. My apologies. What I meant to say is, I'm a little bit older now, and I teach different types of flipping methods, right? And I try to teach my students, hey, listen, the proper thing to do is go through the realtor first, right? And if you don't have much luck, we'll go around the realtor. But I'm the kind of guy that, listen, they hired a realtor, let's go through the realtor. And I can tell you this. I can tell you this, dealing with realtors for 40 years, maybe 1% of realtors have the client's best interest at heart. They do not care about their client 1 ounce. They care about that commission, and that's all they care about. That's all they care about. And that's why I call them check chasers. Now, I'm not going to throw them all in that box of deplorables. Not every single one of them is like that. I'm going to tell you that the majority of them are like that. The majority. I did this, and this will be my last story for the day, and then I want to hear your stories. I built a spec home, $2 million spec home in Villanova. The realtors are telling me to list it for $1.69 million, keep it under 1.7. And I said to them, and there was 3 of them on the team, and I said to them, listen, show me any house in Villanova, 5 bedrooms, 4 baths, finished 3rd floor, right? 3/4 of an acre, flat lot in Villanova for under $2 million. Find that for me, and I'll buy it. Why is my property not $2 million when you can't find this in Villanova? They gave me every excuse under the sun, right? And I said, listen, ladies, at $1.7 million, I am literally giving the property away. We will have 1 million people here. Why? Because it's a steal. And I just want you to look at the commissions. I was paying them 5%, okay? And I shouldn't have even used a realtor, but I just want to, but I was kind of loyal to the one realtor. She did me justice on a couple other homes. I bought some other homes from her, and I liked her, and so anyway, so just take a look at this. If I sold a house for $2 million, okay, and I paid them 5%, it's a $100,000 commission, okay? Now I make $2 million, they make $100,000, okay? Now, if they sell it, I'll say at 1.7, okay? At 1.7 times 5%, it's $85,000. It's $300,000 for me. $15,000 for them, which is only $5,000 if they split it up 3 ways. It's $5,000 each for them that they lose out. I'm losing out $300,000. Where at 1.7, they don't even have to work. Well, as soon as they get a call to say it's 1.7, I'm going to have an agreement to sell in my hand. And I'm like, no. Like, why am I, like, ladies, why am I even hiring you if you don't even want to work? Like, you just want to put a for sale sign out there and call it a day. I said, show me any other house that has 5 bedrooms, it's 5,500 square feet, 5 bedrooms, 4 baths, 3/4 of an acre in Villanova for under $2 million. Show me where it's at. You can't find it because they're all 2.2, 2.3. I'm asking $2 million. right? And that's real check chasing realtors. Didn't want to work. Look, the difference is 85,000 versus 100,000. Me, it's $300,000 difference. It's insane. I said I'm done with realtors. I will never use a realtor again. And now, like a lot of times, a lot of my students get frustrated with realtors because they don't even though it's by law, they have to present the offer. And some of them say, well, listen, I'll present it. And I know full well they don't present it, right? So now there's a form that you have to make them sign to have the seller actually sign that they got the offer. So I'm going to start using that, and force them to do it because they don't care about the sellers at all. They care about their check. And the only thing they ever say to a seller is, let's lower the price. Let's lower the price. Let's lower the price. Sooner or later.
Yeah, that's the easiest thing they can do.
Yeah.
There's like, and it's funny. Every time you watch like a YouTube video from a real estate agent, they'll always say the number one reason your house isn't selling is because of the price.
Right.
But there's like a ton of other stuff. They never say, well, our marketing wasn't very good. All we did was take a sign out. They're not going to say that.
Right.
Because like price is the easiest thing to move, and that gets that check in their pocket faster.
Right.
But there's a million other things that they could have done.
Absolutely. Go ahead, keep going.
Like, I was just going to say, like last time we were selling a house, like my wife did 10 times more work than our real estate agent.
Right.
The only reason I was even using him was because there was a house that we wanted.
Mm-hmm.
He was the seller's agent for, and basically I was incentivizing him to help us sell our house also.
Yeah.
Like, my wife did 10 times more work than our real estate agent did. He stuck a sign out and just,
that was it. Nothing. Listen, I could tell you story after story of how realtors just don't do anything. Like I could tell you there was a house that we were trying to flip. It was like the house would have appraised. Now we do stuff a lot different than 99% of the other investors out there. So I won't get into my methods here, how I actually do it. But the house would have appraised for $2.4 million. They were asking like 1.7, 1.8. We called that realtor, and I know her because I did business with her as a mortgage guy, and I lived in Villanova. So I know who she is. She's very famous. Her mother was a big time, hardworking lady, but she just 3 times we called her, not one return phone call, not one. And I'm like, if I am the seller, and I heard that a realtor didn't return a phone call, I'm firing her, firing them. Another one, I told you I was going to stop talking. Another one. Unique property. The guy can't sell. Been on the market forever. I said, tell me about the property. She didn't tell me, it's a 5-bedroom, it's 4 baths, it's on 2 acres. Like, didn't talk the property. You know what she did? She badmouthed the property left and right. Oh, it's this, it's that, it's not a Center Hall Colonial. And I was like, if I heard this as a seller, I'd fire her. And at the time we recorded the call, like just for saying, listen, this is because they wanted to hear how I talk to, and I was like, if you're going to ever be a realtor, never ever badmouth a house like this. Like she literally talked me out of that. She didn't talk me out of it, but I'm like, she should be saying, listen, where can you find a house in Lower Gwinnett, right, for under $2 million, right? You got 2 acres. No, she badmouthed it up and down. And I'm like, and she wonders why it's on the market for 9 months, 10 months, a year, right? I mean, we got the deal. We were going to flip it, but what did he do? He wound up taking our contract and he did it himself. So he kind of screwed us. But we gave him the idea and he did. But they literally don't know how to market. They only have one thing they ever say is lower the price, lower the price, lower the price. They're just hard. They're check chasers. I could go on and on and on and on, but I won't. All right. So I'm going to give you the last word, Chris. Wrap it up for us.
Okay, well, let's see. Yeah, no, I think the highlight of the podcast was your stories. I could sit down. We should have like a whole podcast with just your stories. You just like occasionally lobbing questions about, well, how did that work? How did that work?
We could do that one time. I'll tell you another quick story. I'll tell this last quick story. My sons, all of them, they love the story of how I got started in the mortgage industry. Remind me to tell that story one day because that's a funny story too. We should do that one day. You can ask me a bunch of questions but this is what happens when you have 40 years of experience. You have all these different life experiences, right? You learn from the people, like you learn what is good for you. And this is good for the people out there. you had, it seems like, correct me if I'm wrong, some very good mentors along the way. People that you're like, hey, these not only are these people in the real estate industry for 20 some odd years, they were my friends. So I can trust them. What they're telling me, they're not telling me bogus crapola, right? They're not trying to sell me a program where I got to pay them $5,000. They're friends of mine, like the friends that I've helped all along the way, never charged anybody a penny, like the lady who actually called me, I'm helping her for free. I'm not going to charge her to learn wholesaling. Like, come on. It's not much time out of my schedule, but you had very good mentors along the way who were your friends, right? And advised you not to take, now, did they tell you not to take property managers? Well, I don't think we talked about that.
No, like my friends that were, so I was extremely lucky, whereas my friends I knew for a long time were property managers.
Oh, okay.
They actually cared about the properties, and I use them to this day, and they never cheat me, treat me fairly, and so on.
Okay.
That's the number one. That's the best solution if you have that. But
Right.
if not, then the one about exactly what you said, like hiring someone and hiring more people to do it for you. So
Right.
they're under your advisement.
Right. Well, if you're buying bigger, higher end properties, again, I made my bones with Section 8. I started out smaller. I went to townhomes, and then I went to big single families, right? And if you're buying big single families, trust me, you certainly don't need a property manager, and you certainly don't need a realtor to list it for you, right, and pay them 1 month. You can just put it right on Zillow yourself, put an ad on Facebook. You'll have it rented in no time, right? And listen, you can pull their credit easily enough, right? You can pay somebody to have their credit pulled. It all depends on what kind of person you want in there. So now your friends are your property managers, the people that you talk to?
Yeah, two of them, yeah.
Okay.
I've got one in Virginia, and I've got one in Illinois, and then the Virginia one also does Ohio.
Okay.
And then I've got a different one in Florida.
Okay, let me ask you this. Now, I had most of my properties were near where I lived, and I also had in Florida. Now, my Florida ones, they were all $1 million+ homes, right? So I bought 5 of them, all new construction. I bought the model home, and I bought 4 more of them right then right there. So they were like all brand new. So they were easy to do. But I didn't hire a property manager for them because, again, I just said if something breaks, fix it, and then just take it off and then send me. Lower end homes, would you recommend people to hire a property manager that are and I'm talking about out of state? They're not in the state. So like me, let's just say Virginia Beach. If I bought some in Virginia Beach, would you recommend somebody to get a property manager if they're out of state?
Yes, I have a specific process for that, which you can't just hire someone. You've got to screen them and so on. There's a certain way I do that, and I never meet them myself.
Okay.
So, and I'd be happy to talk about that on a future day.
Yeah, we'll on the next one. Let's get into that, how, like, what your process is. We should have done that more than me talking about my stuff, but I would like to hear your process on how you do that. Now, are you talking, we'll wrap it up with this. Are you talking about the process of screening your tenants or screening the property manager?
Contractors.
The contractors. Yeah. Okay.
So I only use contractors, not employers. There's a few reasons that we can get into.
Okay.
Whatever. But so basically I'll put, I found the most luck with monster.com. So I'll put an ad on there. It's like $250 a month or something like that.
Okay.
And then I usually get probably 5 to 10 people a day. And then whenever you have who you need, you turn it off.
Okay.
So, and then I have a very specific set of things that I say, like an SOP for,
Yep.
And I ask them a series of questions, and each question is related to, their experience or their temperament or, what their history has been and so on. And then if they answer all the questions correctly, then generally what I'll do is I'll have them do a working interview.
Okay.
So I'll hire someone who, I already have some people in those locations. So I'll be like, go meet, Mr. Smith at this house, and he'll talk to you, and we'll do like a job,
Okay.
a small job, like fixing a dishwasher or cleaning a room or whatever.
Okay.
And if they pass that interview, then I give them more jobs.
Okay.
So you can basically the first one is kind of hard to do, but I mean, you have to just try, trial and error.
Yeah.
But then once you find a good person, you can use that person to check your other people.
Okay.
So, and you've got a system where you always have enough people.
Okay. So let me ask you this, following up on that. When you say hire them, are you hiring them on a per job basis, or are you hiring them as like a a contractor that's on your payroll at some point.
It would be a contractor on a payroll.
Okay.
Now, again, I just
And
want
you
to be
started
clear.
out as that? And you started out with
Let's say, well, okay, so here, let me just clarify. So I don't do that for my own properties right now because I have my property managers. I was very lucky to find all of them.
Yep.
But I help other companies
Okay.
to find a contractor, not
Okay.
employees, but contractors. So, for example, if like for example, my property manager in Florida was having a hard time finding cleaners. My job is to go through and find good cleaners for him.
Okay.
So I'm just saying, if I didn't have a property manager, this is the same process I would use to do.
Okay.
So, sorry if that was a little confusing.
No,
but
no. Well, let me. Here's what I want to ask you, and it's a follow up on that. If somebody only owns, say, 1 or 2 properties out of state, right, and going down your method, are you automatically hiring them on a full time basis or on?
If it's one or two, like the problem is if it's like the hardest thing to do is buy only 1 or 2 out of state.
Yeah.
So, but if you are in that situation where you're going to do that, I would just say you need to call around. And actually, I do have a lot of experience with this too, because I did start with 1 or 2. You just have to call and use Google reviews and get a company. You'll pay a little bit more because you're hiring a company to do it. I probably wouldn't hire an individual unless it was like a very highly reviewed individual on Thumbtack or something like that.
Right.
So, and I did actually do that. I found a great home inspector in Florida that way.
Okay.
But so yeah, I would say, okay, if you only have 1 or 2 and you're doing it remotely, then I would say go on Thumbtack or a similar site and then just interview people, find somebody with a lot of reviews. Reviews are usually pretty good, and be like, hey, this is the job I need you to do. Have them do one job, pay them for that job, and then get either the tenant or someone that you trust down there to say, well, how do they do? Do they do a good job? If they did a good job and they charge you a fair amount, then hire them again. That's how you build the relationship.
Okay.
So that's why I would say if you have 1 or 2 and you're out of state, I would just go to Thumbtack probably.
Right.
Now, once you get to the point where you have 10 or 20, then I would do something where I'm paying people per hour.
Right.
And their contractors are paid per hour to do jobs.
Right. Me, I immediately had a bunch of properties. I didn't have 1 or 2. I had a boatload, right? And my guy, I'm trying to think, did he start out part-time? Yeah, I started him out part-time, right? I would only pay him per job. But then he started doing so many jobs, right? Then I'm like, all right, let's just make this a full-time gig, because then I was trying to like flip homes too. So it wound up being that it wasn't very long where he went from part-time to full-time. So, but yeah. Well, I think what people have to do is they have to do like what you said. They're going to have to do a lot of investigating, right? I'm with you. I would not hire a property manager. I just wouldn't do it. I never had one. I don't think you need one, right? I was able to do it all myself on most of them. Now, I did have help. In the beginning, I had Bill walk me around and show me things, and I had a handyman that did full time. So and then
Which you have to.
Yeah, you definitely are going to need that. There's no doubt about that, because if you can find a very good handyman that knows electric, that knows they have to know everything, right? Now, my guy, I plucked him from the commercial field, who was he was a general contractor that knew plumbing, knew electric, knew drywall. He knew it all. So he was able to do anything that was needed, which was good. But yeah, I agree. I wouldn't go after a property manager. And the problem is greed. Greed ruins everything. It really does. And you think they're run by greed, huh?
Well, yeah. I mean, what I'm saying is not about anything in particular, but except that there's the motivation.
Yeah.
And motivation creates pressure. So, for example, there probably are some property managers that are out there and they really want to help you and they're honest and they want to, good luck finding them. I hope you are.
Have you ever found one like that?
Yes, I did. In Florida, my property manager, I got struck by the good luck lightning.
Okay.
I happened to find a woman who is she actually cares about the properties as if they're her own.
Okay.
She manages many down there. I'm extremely lucky to have found her. And then, of course, my 2 friends who do this.
Okay. Is she a one-man gang, or does she work for a company?
Her and her family.
Her and her family. Okay. So that's the family business.
Yeah, that's the family business. Yeah.
Right.
I actually offered to buy it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I offered to buy it or buy like a controlling interest in it.
Yeah.
Because they were, for whatever reason, I feel like I could have helped their finances.
Yeah.
That's much I'll say about that. Like I'm good at correcting finances for companies.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, let me buy 51% of it. I'll give you this much money. And she was like, great, I'd be love to do that. We'll get the problem solved.
Yeah.
But then her family didn't want to do it because it was like their family business. So like, no, we're not selling.
They didn't
But
want
they didn't know me. They didn't know that
Yeah.
but it was just kind of thing. She was totally fine with it. But anyway, so that's how much I backed that company. Like I would be willing
Wow.
to.
That's
buy
awesome.
half.
That's a lot of trust right there. And it's nice that you were willing to help them out of it. It seems like kind of they might have been in a little financial jam. So,
Yeah.
but all right. Well, Chris, listen, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed this one. It was a good one. And we have notes for lots of good podcasts coming up. So, I'm looking for.
Yeah. Well, okay, here, why don't I? What you want to preview those for you? All right. So for your audience,
Yeah, go
all right,
ahead.
so here's things that we want to talk about in the future. We want to talk about real estate versus gold, stocks, and businesses, and they all have advantages and disadvantages. And we've got like a little chart where there's all the advantages that you could possibly have, and which ones does real estate have, which ones does gold have, so that you could really compare those things when you're thinking about how to invest your money. Number
That'll be a
two,
good one. I like that.
yeah. Number two, negotiation tips. I'm sure Vinny has tons of
Yeah.
negotiation. I've got a bunch of, I feel like negotiation, I have a knack for it. So I've got a bunch of tips that I haven't heard elsewhere that I want to give.
That'll definitely be interesting, that one.
Yeah. So number three, I think I have a better way to hold your reserves. Whenever you're a real estate investor, you need to have reserves in case roofs go out or whatever. I feel like I have a better way than most people. And I'm looking forward to sharing
I'm interested in hearing that. I'm interested in hearing that.
So another
And that's
one.
so important. By the way, for people out there, it's so important to have reserves because you cannot have property and something happens where you can't go and fix it. You do not want to be a slumlord. So,
And I mean, you can lose. Like you could lose the entire property.
Oh, yeah.
Even though you've paid half of it off, you could still lose the entire thing.
Yep.
If you weren't able to pay to keep it livable.
yep, I'm interested in hearing that. I'm very interested in hearing your
And I
method
think you'll
there.
really like that.
Okay.
A few more. The debate of keeping a mortgage versus paying off your mortgage.
Yep.
A lot of people, their main goal as an investor is to pay off and be completely debt free. And then there's other people that say debt is good and it's better to have the debt.
Yep.
So that whole debate.
Well, I know my side of that argument. I've had that argument with my dad for a long time.
Yeah. I mean, I have a side. I'm on the leverage side.
Well, I think me and you were on the same side there.
All right. Oh, same side. Okay. Well, we'll discuss.
I'm a leverage guy.
Yeah.
But it'll be good
mortgage
because
guy,
they'll
you
understand. But I can argue the other side because my dad was total opposite, right? So I can give you his point of view all day.
Yeah. And I've got a lot to say about because most people are on that side.
Yeah, a lot of people are, no doubt.
And then one other thing, and this is just kind of it's a little clickbaity, but my position is real estate doesn't have any unique tax benefits. And what I mean by that is it certainly does have tax benefits, but those same tax benefits can be gotten in other ways also.
Right.
So, and I think that'll mostly just be like an educational thing about what are the tax benefits of real estate versus business versus being a solopreneur.
Well, here's the thing with that. A lot of people don't know that any tax benefits with real estate. They don't.
Real
they
estate
don't
has the
even
best
know the
tax
tax.
benefits.
Yeah, a lot of people
Despite
don't.
what I just said, they have the best ones.
Yeah,
They have
but people don't know that there's a benefit to owning real estate.
like you can like many times it's been said, if you are paying taxes, you didn't buy enough real estate.
Right.
You're not buying enough real
Absolutely.
estate.
So
And it's 100% true.
it's 1,000% true. That's yes.
There's no other way, despite what I said about unique tax benefits. And I'll explain what I mean by that. There are a lot of tax benefits, but there are people who really know what they're doing with both real estate and taxes.
Yep.
Generally have no tax liability.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah, that'll be a good one. That'll be a good one too, because a lot of
funny,
people will learn. A lot of people don't know the benefits of taxes. You know what I mean? They don't.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
don't know what they can earn.
Yeah,
from
one
it,
thing
you know?
about being an investor is that, to a certain extent, I mean, you don't have to answer to anyone.
Right.
And I remember somebody said, well, you have to answer to the IRS. I'm like, the IRS sends me checks every year.
Right.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Right. So it's like the last point what you just said. That's what my kids see. That's what they want, or the lifestyle that I created for my family, which was they don't ever want to go to work. Let me take that back. They don't even want to go to work for the man. They want to work for themselves. You know,
which is a good thing.
which is a good thing. I agree with that. I agree with that. I agree with that. I think, you know, I can tell you, I had a job right out of high school, right? Well, I had jobs when I was in high school too. You know, like our family, you know, my dad, you're not going to be working. You know, you're not going to be sitting around in our house. You know what I mean? Everybody worked. Right out of high school, I had a job, and then when I got into the mortgage business, I worked for a company for not very long. I actually got fired. Funny story. I just told my wife that because that's where I met her. I got fired. And then literally from that point on, I've been self-employed my whole entire life ever since then. So I never really relied on a paycheck for the longest time. So, and it gives you so much freedom. So much freedom.
Yeah. I had a ton of jobs up until I was about 21, and then I opened my first business, and
That was it. Yeah. And it's the best, right?
Yeah, it's the best. Yeah, it is the best.
It's the best. All right, well, we'll wrap it up with that because we both agree on real estate gives you the financial freedom to do what you want, when you want, where you want, who you want to do it with. And I don't know if there's any other job or profession that allows you to do that, right? Like you're a doctor, you had patients.
Yeah, I had to be there. I had to be there every
You had to be there, right? Real estate.
It was great, but you had to be there every day. Yeah. I would say anything related to investing,
Yeah.
but real estate is the one where you could leverage not just money, but also your own effort. Like I know I did this, and I'm sure you did this. You work your butt off for a certain amount of time, but not for money. You don't work for money. You work to create a system that will work for you for the rest of your life.
Absolutely. And we're gonna get into that. We're gonna talk about that next because that is a great point.
Yeah, because you can do that with like stocks, for example. And we're gonna get that's one of the discussions. You do it with stocks, but you can't leverage your own work.
Right.
You can't really do anything with the stocks.
Right.
Except buy them and then they grow by themselves. With real estate, you can force equity.
Yep.
You can create things. You can multiply that yourself.
Yep. I agree. You're not going to get an argument from me. So, Chris, I loved it. I enjoyed it.
Awesome.
Right. And I'm looking forward to our next one.
Me too. Thank you so much.
All right, buddy. Absolutely. All right. Have a good one, my friend. We'll talk again. All right, bud. Talk to you soon. Bye.